Okay, let me try and go live on Instagram. Give me 1 second. Okay. How is everybody? How was your weekend? Okay, 1 second. Instagram is such a hustle. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to wait a while, I guess. Okay, sending that. Hi, everybody. All right. Hi, 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 hi. Let me see if my dog wants to join me. I'm gonna try and coax him with. Good boy. Good boy. Weekend was good. Weekend was good. Okay. Weekend was good. How many went into food coma after? Are you sure? I know. I'm so excited. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm planning on doing a live reaction, but I can't do it on YouTube, obviously. So I don't know. Twitch? Are they gonna ban me on Twitch if I do that? I wanna do live reaction, probably Twitch. I don't know what is the best. But I definitely wanna like just watch it with you guys just to so I have someone to be excited with. Okay, let me say hi to everybody first. Letitia, Carla, NDB, Gemini, Elizar, OSP, Norwegian Wood, Nikon Lady, Reg Pear, Bang Luna, Maritz, Salmart, Leia, Carol, um, MLB, Night Night, Norwegian Wood, Pia. Is my audio okay? My Lang, my Langa, my Langa. Cooking dinner while waiting for you. Mama Ja, can you give me some dinner? Shelling, Seda, Bang Luna, Leah, Carla Girl, Lisa, Dawn Marie. Okay, let me see if I can go live on Instagram now. Okay. Because I also sometimes I take the time to set up Instagram and then I forget. Lisa, Jolly, Rani, Rainstore, Maritz, Eva, Victoria, Hitomi, Lorena, Angel Star, iCarmi, Leah, MLB, Warren, Lisa Parker, AK Bangtan, Kathy Swamp, Kez M, Gamis, Rachel, Just Me CDV, GG, Kathleen, Linax, Green Malta, iCarmi, Party Birch, Danielle, Share Your Love, Norwegian Wood, Linda, Miriam, Arlene PZ, Alexa, Dean, Viet, Kathy, Emily, Just Me, Purple Owl, Rani Gigi, BTS 7 plus 1, Norwegian Wood, Miriam 24, K Zumba Gold with wow, that's a long nickname. How's everybody? Hi everyone. Okay, so I actually am very excited for today because I'm gonna they're saying hi to you, Deba. Can you say hi to them? Hmm? I'm gonna take him to the vet. So this time I think I'm gonna keep the appointment because he started throwing up again. And I do think partly it's because my mom spoils him with food. And so whenever he acts cute, my mom would give in and give him human food. And he has a very, very sensitive tummy. And so I think that kind of messed him up or something. For before my mom arrived, he has always had only dog food. I've never given him human food. And he is very picky. He would only do organic. And even his dry food is organic. And So I think that, and even then, every now and then, if I give him the wrong treat, or I don't know, if I heat it up the wrong way, if I heat up his food, he likes heated up food, not very, very hot, but at least warm. If I heat it up the wrong way, he would throw up or whatever. So he has always been very sensitive he has always had a very sensitive tummy. But I guess when my mom came here and then he started acting cute, so he realized that if he acts cute, he's gonna get food from my mom, and my mom would always give him some. And that kind of just made it worse for him. So he would started throwing up. And so I told my mom I can't give him human food anymore. So that stopped. So the throwing up stopped for about a week. And then the other day he started throwing up again. And so whenever I would dry food would not do that to him. But it has to be organic dry food. But like the other ones, like frozen, um stuff like that he can take. So I'm gonna take him to the vet on Thursday. Okay, sorry, baby. Yes, mom does that thing with my dogs. We are Filipino, and my mom would give them spam or adobo. I know he's a high maintenance baby. He is. His food is really more expensive. So I went to the store yesterday to get him some dry food, just so he has like options, because it's always the same thing. And I guess the staff was new, so he didn't know debak yet, and so he was shocked at like the food that he I was buying for him, because it was giving me samples. They give you samples, and it's like, if it's not like organic, don't bother giving me any because it's not gonna work for him. He's not, and he was like, "Oh my god, he's an expensive dog." So I was looking like the things that I buy for him, and he's an expensive dog. So okay. I don't know. I don't know if I told you the story, but I was scammed when I was getting him. I got him during the pandemic, and it was right after my father passed away. So I really needed a dog, just, to manage me emotionally. And so I needed a dog. I went to the pound and they were all gone. You know how during the pandemic, everyone was getting a dog. There were some, but there were big dogs, and I don't have the strength to actually handle a pit bull, and many of them are pit bulls. And so I can't. They told me, if you can't handle like your strength, if you can't handle that, a pit bull is not for you. So I didn't have a choice. I bought him. And the breeder showed me some pictures, and I chose one, and that is not the dog that he brought. He brought him. And he told me that he's the youngest and the mom was rejecting him. So I was like, "Can you just take him?" Because the mom was like, I guess it was like, "You're cheating. This is not what I wanted." But he's a perfect dog. Okay. That's his story for the day. All right. I think let's just give people like one more minute to come in. No dog feedback then. I hope they are careful with food. It's not good. Bikes and dogs were gone during the pandemic. Yeah, bikes and dogs, and a lot of pets. Actually, they took a lot of pets. But what angered me is that after the pandemic, so I called about, I don't know, maybe five, not 10 pounds, but like probably more than five shelters. I asked around five shelters, and then I emailed a lot of shelters, and they were all out. The ones that they were offering me were big dogs, which, as I've already mentioned, I can't handle. I don't have the strength for that. So, and then after that, after the pandemic, when things were starting to go back to normal, they started calling me, and they told me that the dogs were being returned. I was so mad. I was so angry. But what can I do, right? And the problem is that right now I'm so occupied with so many things. I just don't have the time to take care of one more dog. And it's my mom is not she doesn't drive yet here, and so she's still finding her way around. She's in her 60s. So it's not easy for her to adjust to new things. So it has to be me if I need to take the dog to the vet and whatever, it has to be me. So I'm sort of like, I need I can't handle another dog right now. Isn't gambling in SK it is yes. It is illegal. In fact, I know this was going to come up because of V. So it is illegal. That is, in fact, one of the cases that Yang Yun Sok, the not the former, not the current, again, the CEO and the founder of YG Entertainment. So it doesn't matter where you go. If you are a Korean citizen and if you do something illegal, even if you are in another country, you can be prosecuted in Korea. So, for example, if you smoke joint, that which is illegal in Korea, even if you do it in like another country, in the US or whatever, you still can get prosecuted. But I think that is one of the reasons they did not show V gambling. There you go. I think that is why that's how they went around it. And the other thing is that he is endorsing the hotel, not necessarily gambling. So Paradise City is a chain of hotels. They just happen to have gambling on some floors. And so I think that's what it is. He's endorsing the hotel. Like if you endorse any kind of hotel, there will always be like a slot machine somewhere. If you do MGM, there's casino on the ground floor and everywhere in the building. So I think that's how they went around it. How much do you think V is paid per advertising contract ambassador? So what I heard, and this is rumors. So for you, this would be second, third hand information, fourth hand information. So I got it. Okay. So, but this is rumors. Okay. I have absolutely no proof this is true. So every BTS member has a baseline. They have a baseline in terms of ambassadors. So if you get them, there's like a minimum, and it is seven figures in US dollars. Okay. So that's their figure. And then it just goes up depending on what you want them to do. So for this one, is my lipstick okay? I'm trying to learn how to like do a lip liner, use a lip liner. I'm absolutely horrible in that. I'm trying to learn how to do that because I have very thin lips, which my niece, not the niece that I consider my daughter, but other niece, made me very insecure about it. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna try and learn how to line my lips. So going back, so they have a baseline which runs into seven figures in US dollars, and they are the highest paid in Korea, like in terms of among Korean celebrities. They're one of the highest paid among Asian celebrities, probably the highest paid. Who could be? They're probably one of the highest paid Asian celebrities in terms of endorsements. And they so it's seven figures, that's the bottom, that's their baseline. And then depending on what you want them to do, it goes up. So for example, just attaching your name to their name, that's your baseline. If you want them to do TV ads, that's the most expensive. And then if you and on what region. So for example, if it is only US, then that's one rate. If you want it across North America, South America, if you want it global, but you have to be specific on what countries you want the TV ad to air. And that's the same thing for billboard, newsprint, print ad, sorry, all of those things. So you have to be specific where, when, and so the more global you become and the more media you want them in, then the bigger the amount. So I guess that's the safest answer I can give you. It's seven figures in US dollars. You start there, seven figures. And it's not just $1 million. So seven figures will be 1 million, right? But that's it. The baseline is not just $1 million. So they have a baseline way above $1 million, and then it just goes up from there. Um they won't complain about V being ambassador and advertiser. They want tourism and money. Yeah, it's the hotel anyway. It's not He's not endorsing gambling per se. He's endorsing the hotel. So but V did gamble, is blew his breath so the player would win. Um they clearly differentiated him, V's ranking in the promotions. Sims re I'm sure I know I'm sure that they have lawyers who already studied this. He would They would not just I mean, even if like, let's just, for example, set aside Big Hit, right? Let's just, for example, say, okay, they're useless and they don't have anything to do about this and they didn't think or whatever. I'm sure V thought about it. So I'm sure he has his own lawyers who's studying all of this. I'm sure he is safe. He's a smart guy. So I am sure that when he took on this project, he knows that it's going to be Fairlane. I have two wins. They are also known to have sensitive tummies. My older pup is on special vet diet, Pro Plan DRM, dermatological management, which has worked well for 4 years now. Ooh, is it expensive? Am I going to spend more than what I'm already spending more on him? The haters will hate on it regardless, and he knows that. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure each member outside of the lawyer of Big Hit, they each have their own set of lawyers, not just one. And then you have Big Hit lawyers. They are smart. So I'm not worried about that. And but I know that that question was going to pop up, that gambling is whatever. So I think that's one of the reasons they made sure that he's actually not gambling. He's not shown gambling. And Paradise City is a hotel first and foremost. So, oh, he has been working a lot. Okay, so there's actually three things that I wanted to talk about. um, the Still Seven, I'm sure that many of you, if you're following the Instagram account, you've probably already seen this. They've posted something new. So it is Still Seven. They confirmed it in their bio. And then it is pricey, but no issues. Okay, well, as long as he's healthy, whatever it takes. Okay, so Still Seven. And then I want to talk about the rap line. Primarily, this is actually inspired by Mama 2025. So I published a video just this morning about Mama 2025. And one of the things that I included in the roundup for Mama was GD's performance. And I was really surprised with the reaction of many viewers about his performance. I'm primarily shocked because they're shocked at how he was performing. And I'm like, that's how he has always performed. So that was inspired by that. So that thing. And then of course I wanted to talk about some news and updates, one of which is the RM is feeding us. You can just always count on our leader to sort of keep us on tabs on what's happening. So we now know that they are in their sort of been going to the rehearsal room. So as they mentioned, it's not necessary that they already have the choreography. It's just that they're trying to get back in shape. And so they're going back into the, so those are the three things. They're going back to the rehearsal room just as so they could refresh and go back into shape so that they'll be ready when the choreography is there, or who knows, maybe the choreography is already there. So do you think SK will loosen their stance on gambling like they have regarding same-sex couples and tattoos? I think the only gambling allowed is their lotto. They have like a sweepstakes. They have their own version. Um, I if it ha- I don't think it's gonna happen soon. I don't think so. Primarily because they already have a lot of cases of people. They already have a problem with debts. A lot of Koreans are actually in debts, but basically they're getting into illegal debts. And so I think the government is kind of aware that if they introduce gambling, that's going to worsen the problems of debts of Koreans. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. They're going to have to deal with their financial issues first, primarily how they can help their citizens in securing their retirement before they even think about that. And I think the same thing is true with marijuana and other things. So, no, I don't think they're going to loosen it anytime soon. It might happen in the future, but not anytime soon. Um, to be honest about, so my grandmother was actually a gambling addict. Uh, my mom's mother. I love her, respect her, um, just love her to death. but she's a gambler and she sank our entire family into debt. So I'm all for banning it. I'm all for banning it. I've tried it though. I've tried gambling in Vegas. I just didn't have the patience for it. So G Dragon, not my taste. Okay, so why don't we discuss that first? How about that? And then, since all of the topics are kind of positive anyway, maybe we can discuss this and then go through the other topics first, right? How about that? Um, I've never got to Big Bang Thing. I remember seeing them way back then and just shaking my head. G Dragon, not my taste. Okay, so I tried gambling once, lost 10 bucks. Oh, I gambled in Vegas, but it wasn't my money. So the producer, the guy, the producer who produces the movies that I write, her husband gave me $100 when he learned that it was my first time in the casino, and he said, "If you hit the jackpot, then we'll just split." And I'm like, "Okay." And I've never gambled until then, so I was like, "Okay." I tried it. I just didn't have the patience. So okay, let's try talking about the rap line first. Oh my god, no MHJ. If we have the time, probably I'll talk about her, but would really want to talk about this first cuz I before I actually got into BTS, the very first thing that I have gotten into in Korean entertainment was Korean variety shows and hip hop, Korean hip hop, and then Korean rock. So K-rock. And I'm talking like rock, like Nell, those bands. And then Korean rap was like Yoon MIRAE, Tasha. She's the girl that the rapper that J-Hope collaborated with. So Drunken Tiger, all of those people. I was more familiar with all of them than I was with K-pop. And so I was really more familiar with them. And the only reason I got into K-pop was really BTS. Before them, I was just like, I would give them a try because I would write about them and stuff like that. But BTS was really the first one that got me into K-pop. And so if you ask me, like, I actually have more knowledge about Korean hip hop than I do about the history of K-pop. So it was interesting how the new generation of K-pop fans were reacting to G Dragon's performance. Okay, so uh, he won several awards. I think he won 4 in Mama 2025. And as you would know, BTS themselves have mentioned G Dragon and Big Bang for many, many times in the past as one of their influences. But more specifically, it was actually the vocal line. And even more specifically, 2 people in the vocal line mentioned them, and that would be Jungkook and Jimin. But Jimin is more a Taeyang fan than he is a Big Bang fan. But Jungkook was the one who mentioned Big Bang in general. He said that he was already bent in the book beyond the story. He mentioned that he already made up his mind that he was going to audition and try becoming a pop star, becoming a an idol. So he already knew that. But then so while he was trying to decide on how he was going to go about it, he saw the performance of Big Bang. And that sort of he was like impressed with the production and stuff like that. And so he was like he was impressed. So he decided, okay, I'm gonna audition now. So that's what he mentioned about Big Bang. But Jimin mentioned more Taeyang. He was really a Taeyang fan. And and Taeyang is really good. He's my favorite Big Bang member. Um so that's just like how Big Bang actually influenced BTS. But the rap line themselves, their influences were really American rappers and Korean rappers. And you know who they've mentioned: EPIK, Kendrick Lamar, Eminem, Drake, you know, J. Cole for J-Hope, all of those people. Okay, so when G Dragon went on stage and performed, a lot of people were shocked with how like he was moving on stage, how he was singing, how he was rapping. They were shocked that he won best choreography or best dance performance or something like that. And the truth is that it wasn't really surprising for me. A lot of people, so the primary comment, primary observation of people was that he wasn't a really good singer. He's a rapper. And they were like, he's not a good rapper either. So, and they were like weirded out with how he was performing on stage. Like he was, I don't know if you've seen it, but if you have, or maybe you can just look at like the first 5 minutes or something, like he looked irritated on stage, like he couldn't be bothered, like he was like, and I said that's how he has always been. If you I've seen two of their concerts, that's how he has always been. And I've seen him perform not just on Mama, but in other stages. That's how he has always been. And I'm not bashing him, by the way. Okay, I'm not bashing him. I'm not saying that this sucks, but that's just his style. That's how like there is a feeling of him being too big for the stage or something like that. But in all fairness to him, this is the style of YG. If you observe any other rappers from YG, that's how they come across. Even Blackpink, if you observe the members that are rapping, like that's there's like a certain kind of swagger. Like I'm too cool for you. Like all of you are irrelevant mortals, and then I'm like the goddess or the god or something. That's the kind of attitude that they take on stage. And so him like taking off the tie, throwing off like some of his pieces of clothing, he did not. Like the tie and whatever he was throwing off the stage. That's like the style that he has. That has always been signature GD to a T. Okay, that's his style. You may not like the style, but that's just how he is. Okay. Again, I'm not bashing him. I'm trying to explain how he projects that kind of grandness on stage. Okay. So, all of those things, it's nothing new. Now, if you don't like his singing, he's not a singer. If you don't like his rapper, I understand. There are some rappers that we simply resonate with, right? So I've mentioned several rappers that I like, several rappers that I don't necessarily like. I don't hate any of them. It's just that I don't like them. Okay. So, and that I think that kind of swagger, that kind of attitude is what actually attracted a lot of people to GD and to Big Bang in general. That kind of abandon, that kind of attitude where everyone feels too timid in front of him, like everyone's too small in front of him, like he's the best, like he's the king, he brings it, like sophisticated high end aura. That's what made him popular, that's what impressed everybody. That's why YG would always make it a point that all of their stages look good, look glamorous, there's a lot of lights, it's playful, because you want everything to look grand when they are on stage. Okay. All right. So that's their style. Okay. Now, however, it's not necessarily revolutionary. There's a lot of other rappers who came on stage that commanded that kind of presence. The difference is that with Big Bang, they YG themselves would design the entire stage to revolve around them. So the entire stage is actually working for them, as opposed to other rappers before them, before Big Bang. And I'm talking about like actual hip hop rappers, where a lot of the things that they're bragging about came from their substance, their achievements. So let's talk about that. Okay. And then you'll understand where Big Bang actually comes in, where RM, where the rest of BTS members actually come in. Like what is their significance in K hip hop? Verbal JINT, you might have to, this is very academic or historical, I guess. So verbal JINT is actually one of the most important figures in K hip hop. Be it without him, I don't think it would be possible for the idol industry to actually even rap, if you call whatever it is that they're doing rapping, because he changed the entire linguistic structure of Hangul. in order to make it usable in rap. Okay. Okay. All right. So, what was it? So, the Korean language is agglutinative. This is, sorry, agglutinative language. There's a lot of particles. The syllable at the end of the sentence is the same because they only have, you know, how the Korean structure, the Korean language is structured, right? So, the ending is kind of like the same because that's where the verbal particle is at. So, it's he, de, it's always the same. So there, and there's very few of them. And you know, in rapping, rhyming is a huge thing. So it does not, the Korean language doesn't jive with hip hop because hip hop is supposed to be poetry. So you're supposed to be rhyming at the end and also rhyming within the sentence, which I will be explaining later. They couldn't do that in early Korean language, in the early years of Korean hip hop. It was so, it sounded boring because the ending is the same. It's he, de, yo. It's all so limited. Okay. And then there's also a lot of particles, un, ga, ki, things like that. Okay. You want to go down? You want to go down? You want to go down? You say bye bye. Bye, baby. Bye bye. Bye bye. I'm going to go back later. Your insults are like, okay. 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 So, in, because of that, because the ending of the verse, the ending of the line is always the same, the rapping sounds very boring because it's always the same syllable. De, he, you know, I've mentioned that already. Okay. So early Korean rappers, to solve this, they would usually rap in monotone flow. That's one. They would put rhyme only at the very end of the verse, and it's always the same. Hede, stuff like that. And then they don't rhyme within the lines, right? So great rappers actually rhyme within the line itself, and I'll talk about that in a bit. And then they usually rely on the rhythm rather than the rhyme structure. And in hip hop, it's supposed to be both. You have to be doing the rhythm, you have to be rhyming and also relying on the rhythm. That's why it sounds so poetic, even if you don't know what they're talking about, because the sonic sound, of course, it's a sonic sound. The sonic structure makes it sound so dynamic. Okay. But they couldn't do that, as I've said, because of the limitations. There's so many particles. Ga, and then there's also, and it's so contextual, the language is so contextual, but the biggest problem that they had was that they had very few endings. The ending of the sentence, there's only few of them, so it doesn't sound dynamic. Okay. So in the early to mid 1990s, their focus would always be keeping the rhythm. So it's just like they're talking about like the beat. So there's just like they want to make sure that they're always rapping on beat, and then they just want to like sound energetic or charismatic or angry or something like that, and they need to stay on tempo. That's how they solved it. But the language itself, the rhyming itself, they couldn't solve because, as I've said, the Korean language is just structured that way. Okay. And then they didn't necessarily rhyme the ends. They don't always rhyme the end of the rap line. There's always not the end word isn't always rhyming. And they don't also build internal rhymes within the same sentence. Okay. So it was more like spoken rhythm over a beat. It's like narration. That's how it sounded like. It was like they are narrating and they just happen to have a beat while they are narrating. Okay. So if the internal rhyme One example that I chose the most popular mainstream, Lose Yourself. I'm sure everyone here have already heard the song. And it is so popular about the way he has actually rhymed. Of almost every line has actually, oh sorry, almost every line has an internal rhyme. Okay, so his palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already, mom spaghetti. So that in itself, so many rhymes inside it. And then there's Kendrick Lamar. Wouldn't you know, we've been hurt, been down before, blank, I can't say that word, when our pride was low, looking at the word like, where did we go? So for Kendrick Lamar, for example, the internal rhyme is no, low, and go. So if you go, the lyrics would be on the upper portion. No, low, and go. That's his rhyme. And then that's the end and internal rhyme. And then been hurt, been down. It's a parallel structure. Pride and prior vowel. It's a vowel echo. And then world and whirl. And that's the slant, is how they call it. So that's an example of internal rhyme. So let's go back to Eminem. So here you have palms and arms. That's a midline consonants. And then sweaty, heavy, ready, spaghetti. Multi-syllable vowel family. And then knees weak, which is compound internal. And then vomit on his, and that's a slant rhyme. So one line has already rhymes, has so many rhymes. Okay. And then like almost every line matches on the with the next line, and then within the line itself there's a lot of rhymes. Okay, so I hope you got that. In the old Korean language they don't have that, because there's, again, the structure is just so different. So before verbal gent, before verbal gent the sentences, all of the rhyming, all of the rap lines, all of the lines, all of their raps would end in verbs, because that's the structure of their sentence. And they have identical predictable syllables at the end. Da, that's da again, myon, and ka. So that's some of the endings that they use, very limited. And then they have a lot of particles. I, ka, nun, e, esto. So those are some of the many particles that they have, which is a part of their sentence. So since that's how the structure is, the way that they rap would be very limited, because they have to follow this. Otherwise, no one would actually. Oh, thank you, Debak. You've got a treat. Organic treats for them. Thank you so much. Okay, so so there's because the sentence structure itself, the Hangul sentence structure, calls for the particles to be there. Otherwise, you won't understand what they're saying. Then when they rap, they also have to put it there. And so it's a lot of limitations. And then the end has very limited predictable ending. So myon, ka, those are some of the verb that is required to end a sentence. So it's like when you are rapping in Korea, if you translate it in English, there's like five endings that you can use. It's five syllables that you can use. So it's always the same thing over and over again. So it kind of sounds boring. It's like boom bap, boom bap. That's it. That's all you can use. And then da 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 da. It's like very limited. So rather than multi-syllable rhyming and internal rhyming, they would just rhyme at the end, but there's like 10 of them. So very boring. Verbal Gent was the one who actually solved that. He restructured the language just as so Korean rappers can actually start rapping and not sound boring. Okay. So that's how important he is. He did not reorganize, he did not change Korean rap in terms of substance or in terms of messaging. He actually changed the structure of Korean language just so that it can be used in rapping and not sound boring. That's how important he is. Okay. and he's not recognized enough. That's why I wanted to introduce him to you, because from him, RM, SUGA, and J-Hope built on it. Okay, but there are others outside of verbal gent, but he's one of the most important. Okay, so he showed how he reorganized Korean or Hangul so that rappers could rhyme intentionally. So they're not limited to the ending rhyme, which is like 10 different sounds. Okay. So that's how he did it. And he did it by grouping certain words. He created the he created a rhythmic family. Okay. So for example, um this hangul that you're seeing, I highlighted the last word for you because those are two different words but kind of sounds the same. So that's how he did it. He made Korean rappers realize that even though they do not sound exactly the same, you can group them together and make them sound the same. Does that make sense? So um the first one is kaso. Kaso. That's how the first sentence, that's how you pronounce it, kaso. And then kaso. Yeah, kaso. And then the second one is naso. So two different words, but it kind of sounds the same. I hope I'm getting my point across. Okay. So he called it um the the family, the Korean family. So for example, this is another one. Um the above is the Hangul and then below is the Romanized. So Buatgo and Jako, those are two different words, but it kind of sounded the same. He makes it sound the same. So that's how he did it. He grouped certain words so that you know that these words may be different, but you can make it sound the same, which is very much like the American language, right? There are words that are they actually don't rhyme, but if you say it a certain way, then it can sound the same. I remember in the interview of Anderson Cooper with Eminem, he was talking. Eminem said that, oh, he's kind of pissed that a lot of people kept on saying that people kept on saying that there is no word that rhymes with orange. And he said that I can think of like at least five words sounds that rhymes with orange. And so Andrew Cooper, like, what are those? And then he came up with five. And it's just the way that he said it. They don't rhyme, but if you twist it a little bit, then it's gonna sound the same. Like orange, derange, something like that. So he said, like, if you say it a certain way, then it's gonna sound the same. That's kind of how verbal gent did it. He grouped certain words together and made rappers realize, okay, if you deliver it a certain way, this thing's gonna work. Okay. So I that is how he restructured it. He called it rhyming family. Fairlane, how did you come up with all this information so quickly? You have knowledge that could fill a library. I I'm a fan. I was a fan of Korean hip hop before I became a fan of BTS. And BTS was my entry point towards I to a certain degree I was like already reading and listening to Korean pop just because it was part of what I do, K-pop pop culture. So but it was BTS that I started following. But before that it was Korean hip hop, Korean rock and stuff like that. So so that was like the so that's how he changed the structure. Okay. The pronunciation of orange rhymes. Yeah. That's how Eminem did it. Like orange, derange, orange, other things. He came up with at least five. And he was like, so it's just the way, it's just how you pronounce it. And then do you listen to Epic High before? I listened to Epic High before I started listening to, because Epic High has been around for a while. I'll tell you a little bit about Epic High in a bit. But So, okay, so that's how verbal gent actually revolutionized the language. He introduced that idea that you don't necessarily always have to end with a verb, which is like 10 different syllables. You can actually get words like what go and jacko and make it sound the same. It's just it's depending on how you're going to pronounce them. So another one would be here. Um, so gaso and saraso, those are two different words, right? But depending on how you pronounce it, it can sound the same. So gaso, saraso, gataso, those are all different words, but can sound the same. So it was Verbal Gent who introduced that idea and created these groupings so that Korean rappers can actually use that. Okay. Next, so Verbal Gent, this is one of the things that he did. I just put a romanized thing so that you also know, and then the English translation so you know what he is actually talking about. Ejunan noyo ol gurul buat ko. And then the second one is onuldo moritsogo mem memdora jako. Okay. I'm not doing him justice, but I hope you're getting what I mean. So essentially, Buatgo and Jako both have awo and o at the end. So they sit in the same vowel consonant family. So they feel like they rhyme, even though they don't. Again, it was Verbal Gent who introduced that. And then you have the internal echo within the line. So those are the same letters, as you can see. The square looking one is actually letter M in Korea, in English, in our language. And then the one anyway, the vertical line with like a half cross in it, that's O. That's how you pronounce it, O. So he was able to create a rhyme within the sentence when he did that. Because he said, okay, so if it is just a matter of pronouncing it, sending organic desserts for Fairy Lane, all the talkings you will need to recharge. Oh, thank you. Did he create new words? Um, he bended words. He bent or not bended. He bent words, which created new words. If that makes sense. So basically, for example, the best example would be something that you can relate to would be what RM did with Flower Works, right? Flower Works does not exist in in any kind of language. It does not exist. He just created it. So it's the same thing as he did. He would put two words together and create a new meaning. That's how Verbal Gent did it. But his biggest contribution remains, and then of course from there he built on it. He built on the principle, but his biggest contribution is by doing that, by grouping certain words together. And when I say grouping certain words together, I don't mean he simply um created he didn't just get he didn't just take words like 10 words and said, okay, this is group 1 and then another 10 words and this is group 2. It's not like that. So he he created the principle, right? Like for example, buatgo and jako, those are two different rhymes. Those are two different words. But if you say it a certain way, then it can sound the same. So he introduced that idea. And then from there, the possibilities would be endless. Um, and so, aside from the ending, he also had internal rhyming because of that principle. So, this is what they call the perfect rhyming in Korean. So, this was revolutionary, and he first introduced it in his EP, Modern Rhymes. That was like a milestone, and that shook the entire Korean hip hop industry, the entire movement, not just the industry, but the entire movement, because everyone was just like, "Oh my God, there's a whole new world right in front of us." The wall is basically knocked down. He really knocked down an entire wall that separated Korean language from hip hop. Okay. Orange could be made to sound like Oren, rhyme with born, torn, shorn. Yeah, something like that. He did that. So if you watch the interview of Eminem with Anderson Cooper, that's one of the best interviews he's done, actually. He explained it, and that's how he introduced, like, no, orange can actually rhyme with some things. So okay, so that is the main problem that verbal gent solved. So verbal gent demonstrated that the Hangul, the Korean language, can sustain multi-syllable rhymes, internal rhymes, compound rhymes, stress-based flow adapted to Hangul, and vowel pattern rhyme systems, and what they call the enjambment. Okay, so without him, then Korean rappers would still be boring, would still sound boring to this day. Now, from verbal gen to RM, essentially, what when RM started rapping in Korea, um, verbal gent was already there. He already laid out the structure. Already, rappers were already using the structure that he created, so it has long been established. So then the challenge to RM, to SUGA, and to JHOPE is, how do I push this modern Korean rap system further? Okay. So get this. The reason he is able to do wordplay is because of the system that Verbal Jint created. Now, would RM have been able to do wordplay if it wasn't for Verbal Jint? Probably. Probably. But we don't know that because that's not what happened. What happened was that Verbal Jint introduced the right. So we don't. Maybe he would be able to do it. Maybe it would have been RM or Suga or J Hope that would have restructured the language. We don't know. But what we know is that it was Verbal Jint who introduced it, and from there they were able to play with words, play with rhymes, play with sentence structure, do internal sentence rhyming, and all of those things, all because of Verbal Gen. So now, what RM and Suga and J Hope did is to push it further. What else can you do with the language that will give that would give hip hop its own color, its own rhythm, and its own rhyme? That's the challenge for RM and for Suga and for J Hope. Okay, I had stereotype about rap because my nephew listened to trash. so so before, you can already hear in his, if you are able to, I don't know if you've been able to listen to some of the songs that RM and Suga wrote when before they actually became trainees, or when they were training. But they very much adapted what Verbal Gent introduced. So they minimize particles. So there's not a lot of n, nun, o, ga. They drop a lot of that. So that allows them to rhyme within the sentence because they were dropping a lot of that. And then they shift the verbs away from the very end so that nouns and adjectives can rhyme. So they started putting, instead of always ending the sentence with the same verb, they would end with nouns and adjectives. So they were able to stylize their sentences. And then they stacked internal rhymes, all because of Verbal Gen. Okay. Um, BTS Rapline Deng is the most amazing wordplay ever. RM used that one like 7 different ways. And then, so whenever we hear, like, because I know for a lot of K-pop fans who are very much into BTS or whoever, like even other Korean idols who rap, they feel like, oh, my idol, like my bias is the most revolutionary Korean hip hop artist. That people have the tendency to do that, like he's the best, and it's like it isn't true, because even before RM, even before Suga, and even before J-Hope, and I will get to how they contribute, like what is their own milestone. Even before them, there were a lot of other rappers who laid down the groundwork so it to make it possible for them to do what they are doing right now in hip hop, in rapping. Okay, and one of them is Verbal Gent. And I could argue personally, this is just my opinion. I think that Verbal Jin's contribution is the most important in Korean hip hop. And take note, I'm just talking about Korean hip hop, not hip hop in general. Okay. Just Korean hip hop. Okay. So in Korean hip hop, I feel that Verbal Jin's contribution is probably arguably the most important because he made it possible. He opened the door for all the other ways rappers are rapping right now. If it wasn't for his rhyming family, if it wasn't for him opening the possibility of actually bending the words so that it will sound the same, then rappers will still sound the same. Everyone is going to end their rhymes in the same 10 different syllables, right? So if it wasn't for him, that wouldn't have been possible. Okay. All right. Um so if it wasn't for Verbal Gent, then RM would probably he would have had to, or any Suga or J-Hope, they would have had to solve the Korean rhyme problem themselves before they could even get to their own themes, which is their contribution. Okay, so after that, after Verbal Gent, so we know now how important Verbal Gent's contribution is. Then we go into Tasha or Yoon Mi, which is the rapper that J-Hope worked with for Neuron. Okay. So not a lot of people actually realize the importance of On the Street, the album, and also the series. It's very important because that was J-Hope's way of pulling in the movers of Korean hip hop into the mainstream, which has happened before, but they have been out of it for a while. Um, what a contribution from Verbal Jin. He should be more celebrated for this. He was actually one of the first judges for Show Me the Money. He was in season 1. I believe he was also in season 2, but he did say that at some point he just didn't feel that the show was being authentic to the rappers because it's his story to tell, and I can recommend the interview where he actually discussed this. So he actually bowed out. He bowed out of it because he felt like this is not how we do hip hop. This is just not how we do it. So he quit. Okay, so going back, J Hope's project was one of the most important in mainstream hip hop because he put back the focus on some of the movers in Korean hip hop. And Yoon Mi or Tasha is actually one of the biggest contributors and biggest mover and revolution revolutionist in Korean hip hop. Okay. So before Tasha or Yoon Mi, that's her. She's one of the prettiest girls I've ever seen. Um, Korean rappers would rap about themselves. So it's more about bragging, punchlines, showing technical ability, dissing other crews, repping your neighborhood. And dissing, that's part of even like actual hip hop, original hip hop. That's how it actually started. They were dissing each other. Of course, it's not, they don't go into fights like that. That's just the art, dissing each other. But that's all. But we also know that that thing expanded. But in Korea, they stuck to the bragging part and missed out on all the other movements. So even Drunken Tiger, which is the husband of Yoon Mi, and Junishan, which is the very first group of YG Entertainment, they were all focused on that. They were all focused on bragging, on showing their technical ability, dissing other crews, repping your neighborhood, how good I am, you're nothing, you're a piece of shit, whatever. So they picked up on all the worst traits of hip hop. Yeah, this is Western hip hop, part of Western hip hop. Okay, verbal sparing. Yes. So that's what it was all about. Now, Yoon Mi changed all of it. Not really changed all of it, but she introduced something different. This is a the lyrics of Junishan. So you used to be fearless, translated in English, of course, dangerous in a way that made people step back. Those sharp eyes, that cold smile. Your child alone could silence a room. So very much about like how great I am. Anyone who tried to stand against you ended up on their knees. Every single one. You never lost the fight. You never even needed to. You were like gasoline, volatile, ready to ignite. So that is the theme of the usual things they were talking about. So before Korean hip hop became heavy on introspection and activism, it was basically club music with rapping. So it was very popular in parties, drinking, dance floor hype, cool guy bravado, and style and swagger. So as I've said, Junetian was a lot of that. DJ Doc, Uptown, all of these rappers, they were, and this was pre Yun Mi. So um, they were heavily influenced by West Coast G Funk, New York boom bap, Bad Boy era swagger, Death Row Records energy. So very performance oriented is what Korean hip hop was. This is a lyrics from a song. Loser, loner, a coward pretending to be tough, nasty, delinquent. So again, very much about how cool I am. So when Tasha or Yoon Mi Rae came into the picture, she became the first Korean rapper to talk about racial discrimination. Okay. And she also was one of the first few women in the scene and the first to address women issues in hip hop, in Korean hip hop. Okay. So she bridged American and Korean identity because she's biracial, and she just technically wise, like in terms of flow, in terms of style, just technically, she's just an elite rapper. And that actually earned the respect of the Korean underground community. So she was like she wasn't just rapping well, she was actually rapping about things that no one else dared to. So it was brave, and it was especially brave because no one expected it was going to come from a female rapper. And so that is why I was saying, when J-Hope asked her to be a part of Neuron, to be a part of the entire album, it was significant because she has essentially been ignored by the mainstream fans. No one has acknowledged, not no one, but very few acknowledge or even recognize or even know how she has contributed to Korean hip hop. Okay. So this is her verse in Neuron, but that line, music and family, that's what it's all about. They keep me going like day in and day out. That has been like her anchor in all of her raps. She would talk about discrimination, she would talk about social issues, and then at the end of the day she would highlight the fact that this is just music and family. That's my foundation, and that should be everybody else's foundation, something like that. So she brought that into Neuron. And that is why Neuron is really one of the most important pieces out there. And even J Hope's chorus actually talked about that. I'll tell you again, we'll never ever give up forever. I'll say it again, we'll always be alive to move us. And so this is J Hope sort of highlighting the importance not just of Yoon Mi Rae or Tasha, but also the importance of hip hop. What it actually is supposed to serve in the Korean music industry. It's supposed to bring us together. This is supposed to be that one genre or one industry where everyone can come together. He's trying to bridge Korean idol hip hop or Korean idol rappers with Korean hip hop non-idol rappers, something like that. And he does that by joining forces with figures in Korean hip hop that played an important line. So Yoon Mi Rae, and then the other collaborator is Gecko of Dynamic Duo. So it is way more important than the kind of attention this album and this specific track. It's way more important than people give it credit for. I have learned 5 languages, not all fluently, but curse words are among the first we learn. Okay. Did you see Hope on the stage? Oh my God, he is amazing. Okay, so 1 second. That's another lyrics. I misplaced it. It's supposed to go down. So drunken. There are other important figures in Korean hip hop. Drunken Tiger or Tiger JK is another important figure. So he was in the Korean hip hop scene before Yoon MIRAE, but like everyone else, he was primarily rapping about bragging about himself and about flow and all of those stuff. So he made hip hop a serious, legitimate culture in Korea. So he, because of just simply his appeal, and many of the tracks that he released garnered support from other fans that pulled fans into Korean hip hop. He sort of became the legitimizer, the one who made hip hop a an actual industry and not just an underground thing that people do at night. Okay, so that's his role. So he is the reason Korean hip hop is actually respected as a genre. Okay. And then the Quiet, probably one of the most important figures in Korean hip hop as well. He co-founded Illionaire, and he actually defined Korean trap. So he combined trap with rap. He revolutionized flow and precision. So it people many Korean rappers would use the same flow. He was so versatile that he would use different flows within the same song, which is now very common. Before him, it wasn't very common. Um, what happened to the underground rappers that dissed RM and Suga? We'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, so just remind me. Okay, so he mentored many of the contestants in Show Me the Money, and he's also savvy in business. He's very savvy in business. And so he sort of introduced the possibility to a lot of rappers that you can actually become a millionaire. You can actually really earn money from it, because before him, before Drunken Tiger, Tiger JK, many of these rappers would just do rapping on the side and then they'll have a job because they didn't think of it as a viable financial means. Okay. So with him, he sort of made everybody realize, no, we, you can't make this happen. So that is really his biggest contribution to Korean hip hop. Aside from the flow, he would usually use different flows in the same song. He also introduced the idea of hip hop artists becoming millionaires. Like, you can make this a career. You don't have to do two jobs. Doki is a very, very polarizing figure in Korean hip hop. But he co-founded Illionaire Records with the Quiet. I think they parted ways. Yeah, they parted ways already. But he also helped industrialize Korean hip hop, and he was the first. He, if you look at YG style, that's him without the big production. If you remove the big production and you just look at the attitude of the people on stage, that's him. It came from him. What's missing is that he didn't have all of these complicated productions around him that YG likes putting with on his artists. So if you observe the visuals of many of the music videos of YG idols, or when they go on stage, it's grand, right? It's so big. There's a lot of things going on stage. They glimmer and they glitter. That's what's missing on him. The attitude, though, he's got it. He pioneered that. So love him or hate him. And because of that, because he also came from the bottom and then he rose to the top, um, a lot of Korean hip hop, or Korean rappers didn't take that well, because they felt like, oh, you're bragging too much about material things. You're supposed to be bragging about your skills, not the material things. But he brags about that. So he's very polarizing. But polarizing or not, no one can deny his contribution to Korean hip hop. So um he likes talking about that. Well, he likes talking about that now. So you can actually argue, people can argue that the blueprint of YG came from Doki. The one thing that YG added is that big production around the rappers, but the attitude itself, that's from Doki. Okay. But if you mention his name, I'm warning you, he's very polarizing. And then Epic High, of course, Tablo, Mitra, and then DJ Tokuts. They're known as the poets of Korean hip hop. They really put poetry into into Korean hip hop. So it used to be just like lyrics of a song, and then they came and it became poetry. That's their biggest contribution, the poetry in the lyricism of Korean in the flow. And then Yisang, Gary and Gil, they have now disbanded, but they introduced the blues is one. They introduced blues because Gil's voice is, my God, just one of the best ever. So I encourage you to search some of their songs because when Gil is the one at the back with the hat, but when Gil starts belting those notes, oh my God, it's just his voice is so good and it's perfect for blues. So they introduced emotional storytelling, like everyday issues that they pioneered that. They started talking about like just a day in a life, something like that. That's their contribution. So and then the other, and so now we get to uh, the three RM, Suga, and J-Hope. What did they contribute? Did they revolutionize anything at all? If you have all of these figures already contributing poetry and the swagger and socially conscious lyrics and the flow and the language itself, what did the three contribute? That's the big question. Okay. So let's just remember BTS was not the first to use art references. Benzino was actually the first one. He's very much into art. He's like RM. So he would reference a lot of artists in his songs, not just artists like painters, but other artists as well. And then, of course, in terms of poetry, that's Epic High. All right. Now, socially conscious issues, that's Yoon MIRAE. And then restructuring the language, as I've said, it's verbal jint. I don't know why it's probably because of jint, but it's verbal jint with a T at the end. And then dealing with everyday issues, that would be Lisang. And all of these things BTS is already doing. The Rapline is already doing. So again, what is the question? The question is, what do they contribute? BTS Rapline introduced multi-layer literary and narrative structure that reflects their own biography and tell a story, all in the same set of songs across different media. That's a lot in one sentence. Essentially, they are using literary and narrative structures in the same song to tell two different stories in the same song. Does that make sense? Two different stories in the same song. So, a lot of songs tell one story. They tell two. They actually tell three. And then they connect all of those songs in order to create a bigger narrative. That's their contribution. So it's not just changing. They've built on what Verbal Jint introduced, what Yoon Mi Ray introduced, what Epic High introduced, and then they built on it by creating songs that can tell three different stories at the same time, using wordplay, using literary structures by bending the words, by bending the structure of the sentences. So, for example, um, what do you think about TOP's rap? And do you know about BAP? Yeah. Okay. Let me finish this and answer that question. If you can ask it again so I don't forget. So, Wayang Yonwa is actually a perfect example of this. Okay. So, Wayang Yonwa is actually structured to tell three different stories. And each song tell three different stories. So there is the romantic structure, because the first 5 songs, I believe, it's structured like a love song. But those 3 songs actually serve as an introduction to the journey of BTS. That was the beginning of their journey. That was them telling the story of them before of the beginning of their career, trainee all the way until the beginning of their career. And then it also tells the story of the Wayang Yonwan narrative, the BU, the Bangtan universe. So all same songs, all same set of songs tell three different stories. That's their contribution. By not just they made it possible for Koreans by using wordplay, thought play, by bending the words, by restructuring sentences, by introducing many literary devices used by Koreans. You can tell, you can use one song to tell three different stories. And that is not just a literary contribution, that's an intellectual contribution. So they elevated it. They elevated the art of hip hop, the rapping. So one, two, three, four, and five, that's all structured and written like a love story, like a love song. But that's the introduction to their journey and also the introduction to the characters of Wayang Yonwa. I have a video that's coming out tomorrow that's going to touch on that briefly. So if please watch that. So and then Run, Mass City, Silver Spoon, Dope, I'm Burning Up. That tells the story of their journey as to global recognition. And that tells the story of how they struggle and all of those stuff. And that also tells the story of the struggles of the characters in Wayang Yonwa, the Bangtan universe. And then that also tells the story of them separating from this love interest that they created in songs 1 to 5. Save Me is the twist in their story. And then the ending is the epilogue. So the problem though, so this is that just discussing how they structured the the Wayang Yonwa, the first part of their Bangtan universe, is so complicated. It's not just a simple line by line interpretation. For you to actually really understand that, you need to understand the structure that they used, which I will be discussing the first part of, just introducing the structure in the video that will be published tomorrow. So the problem is, so it's, in other words, as I've said, it's expanding the possibility of a song. It's both thematic and substantial. They changed how a song in general, can be used. The problem is that RM Suga and J-Hope are still snubbed by the Korean hip hop community because they became idols. So they created probably the most complicated, complicated literary and musical piece, maybe most complicated artistic piece in modern history of Korea, not just Korean hip hop, but Korea in general. But people will refuse to recognize it because they are being discriminated because they are idols. That's the big problem. But the mere fact that they created all of these songs so that each song tells three different stories is, just by just using classical narrative and literary devices used in Korea, that in itself is mind blowing. BTS was inspired by earlier rappers, but took all that and they put their own twist in their rap. So my other favorite raps by BTS is So What, Deng, and Cypher 3. I don't understand why Converse High is in this. I think Converse High was sort of a break. So if you go, wait a minute, where's that? Okay. So the track A is one story that tells the Wayang Yonwa, the Wayang Yonwa universe, that tells that story. Converse High is it's like their diary. It's not part it supplements their thought process, but not necessarily a mover of the story. So it's like reading a diary. It does not move the story, it does not move the plot, it does not progress the narrative. It's just further understanding the thought process, the thoughts that they had while they were going through this journey. Same thing is true with Moving On, which is about them moving from one dorm to another, which can also be interpreted as them moving in the Wayang Yun Y universe, moving on from that old life that they have and entering a new life. And then Whalian 52 is the loneliness that they feel. So all of this because they are so above everybody else, right? It's Whalian, they're singing in a different frequency. So all of these things, these songs, even the House of Cards, they don't move the narrative. They don't move the story. It's just like they're giving us a glimpse on their thought process as they were progressing the in the story. Okay. Um. All right. So there were several questions. I forgot the questions. Ask them again. I know that there were several questions, but I think um the one thing that we can do as fans is to highlight number one, let's continue supporting academics who integrate BTS in their discussion. There's a lot of academicians that would discuss BTS, their songs, academicians that would discuss their role in the music industry enough, and all of those things. So if there are people like that, especially in colleges and universities, prestigious colleges and universities, let's support them. Next is the continuation of the conversation. Let's just continue talking about the substance of what they have done. As fans, I know that it's so fun to just talk about, just look at their pictures and their variety shows and just laugh. And that should be a part of it because doing something has to be fun, right? But we also need to elevate them in a different level. That's why we need to support conversations that talk about the substance of what they have done, the substance of their music, how different they are from other rappers and stuff like that. Um, do the Stray Kids rappers use a similar technique to BTS or the earlier pioneers? So verbal JINT's foundation is used by all rappers now. There's not a single rapper in Korea worth their salt that is not using that structure. Um, some of them may not be aware that they're using the structure that verbal JINT introduced, but all of them used it. So to a certain degree, then you can argue that anybody who is using rap in Korea, who's using rap to talk about socially conscious issues, then we can argue that that is actually a Yoon MIRAE thing because she introduced that. In the same way, or Epic High can argue that well, we introduced poetry in Korean hip hop, and Benzino can actually argue that all these references to art and other artists, I started that. So to a certain degree, I would say yes, they are using structures that all other Korean hip hop legends have introduced. But and in all fairness to Stray Kids, they don't come out with songs that don't mean anything. You may not like the sound, but the message itself is there. Okay. Again, and you may not like the message, but it is there. So it resonates with someone. But I think, and this is just my personal opinion. I may be totally off on this. Um, they do work with very limited number of producers. I'm talking about Stray Kids. And I think if they just go out and start working with others, they might be able to expand what they can do. The problem, though, is that I think as a creative decision, that this is a creative decision that they have made. They just want to make their own music. Um, Fairlane, I couldn't agree with you more. We need to participate in those conversation too. And it doesn't matter. That's why I keep on saying, like, for the this Instagram page that's the Still Seven that introduced Still Seven, this one. A lot of people are worried that it may not be official. And to me, it does not matter. For me personally, I don't care if it's not official because it's making us discuss the art. It's making us discuss things that relate to the art of BTS. I don't even care if they eventually monetize this Instagram page. I mean, they're doing, if it is not official, they're doing something good. So they should be rewarded for it. For as long as the conversation is centered on their art, it is something substantial, it's making people think, I think that's a good thing. Okay. What happened to the rappers that dissed RM and Suga? One of them went to jail. Uh, Be Free, I think, was the one who went to jail. Um, if you look at that discussion where that specific day when they were when Be Free and which was specifically him dissing RM and Suga, even then you could actually see that Suga asked him one question that he couldn't answer anymore. He couldn't answer because he couldn't give an answer that wouldn't make him look like a piece of A. But Suga's simple question was that, what is wrong with being an idol? Right. If he answers that question, it's going to make him look like a piece of. So he couldn't answer that question. And that but the mere fact that he couldn't answer that question in a substantial way gives you an idea that really what he was talking about was more, he was coming from a place of anger or maybe even jealousy more than substance. Um, and that unfortunately has worked against him. That place of anger, him coming from the place of anger, that worked against him. He has not, his career hasn't really recovered from there. Many of the songs, unfortunately, when Dislike was still visible in YouTube, his song was just, it just plummeted because people were just disliking his songs. And then he just wasn't able to, just set aside him the fact that he went to jail, he just wasn't able to like progress in his career. He wasn't able to like find his place in Korean hip hop. Like at least, the Quiet and Doki, even Yisang, Dynamic Duo, or even Supreme Team for that matter, all of them found their place and he just couldn't. Can we promote the lyrics more with the next comeback? Yeah, I mean, I will always be there to, I'm just one, and there are many others who are better than me in interpreting all of these songs and reading all of these songs. But yes, we definitely need to do that. And a lot of fans will already do like a collection of best moments, or whatever, like what whatever what they want to do. There's a lot of people that will just be there to have fun, and there's nothing wrong about that. But for me, I just want to concentrate. It's what I love anyway. I'm a writer, so I love reading into the text, researching the cultural significance and the literary significance of it, and that's what I'll try to do. That's what I'll try to. So so if you ever find anybody who's doing the same thing, just support them. That's my recommendation. Even if you don't agree with their interpretation, that's fine. For as long as number one, they are respectful of what BTS is doing. And for as long as you feel like, okay, this is progressing the conversation. It may be you may not agree with the conclusion, but if it is progressing the conversation, go ahead. The main one went to jail. Yeah, the main one went to jail. I like Stray Kids. What I love, the sound of pipes clanging together. Free, whatever his name, Be Free was his name. He went to jail. I cannot imagine what they'll bring in 2026 with no expectations or pressure for them. Fairy Lane. So, what happened to the rappers that made fun of BTS? Oh, that I already answered. I hate when Army only talk about superficial things about them on X. Yeah, but it's fun, I think that's one of the things. It has to be fun. I can't quite remember who said that. Like, how do you sustain your passion? How do you sustain it? And one is money, and then the other is fun. It has to be fun. So yeah, it has to be fun. um, we need to go to today's title. Oh, still seven. All right. So did I answer a lot of the questions? The artistry that comes with BTS. So Be Free lost his freedom. You can hear Suga in JK when he wants to make a point. Like when that fan complained about explicit lyrics and he said it was dirty. He said, "Explain why." Okay, so yeah, I hope I sort of my goal was to sort of like let everybody realize so that when we are a little bit more knowledgeable when we talk about the significance and the contribution of BTS, we in Korean hip hop, we also need to be aware that there were other people before them. Verbal Jint, Yoon MIRAE, Tiger JK, Benzino, um, to a certain Epic High, of course. But they have their own place. And that contribution and the way that they restructured literature and music is something that will be adapted and will continue to be adapted in the future by more rappers and other musicians as well. Okay. Next is the what did I put in my topic? Okay, let's talk about still seven. Oh, where are you? Let's talk about still seven. So this was you've seen the I don't know if you guys are following the Instagram account. I hope you are. But I, I've already made my stance clear because some people are worried that this may not be an official account. And to me, I don't care for as long as it is starting a conversation, it's encouraging people to think. And probably the most important of all is that people like fans are actually armies are actually already coming together to try and decode. I think that is okay. If at the end of it we are all wrong, that's fine too. I don't see anything wrong with that. So when I first saw this, I already saw still seven, but someone already posted it in YouTube. So the account eventually confirmed it is still seven because if you go to the Instagram account, it's on their profile. It says still seven. BU still seven. So that is the most obvious meaning of this still seven. But I also feel that there's probably layers into this, primarily because they're not going to write it this way in such a complicated way unless it means something else, because if you look at that, it's not as simple as still seven. If you're looking at the graphic, the image, it's like, I don't know, like it's stylized. So, and we know BTS like doing this, like putting in layers of meaning in an image or in a lyrics, in a line. Okay. So, so this is how it is obviously interpreted. BU still seven. That's the simplest way of saying it. That's the simplest, the most straightforward. But then I was looking at it and I feel like some letters could actually serve two different, like, can actually stand for two different letters. So, like for this one, and I came out, one of the interpretations that I have is that it says begin seven. So, like this first character seems like a B and an E, an inverted E, right? So it seems like a B because that's a B, a small letter B. And then if you put it upside down, that's an E. So it could be B and E. It could be B, their album B. And then the next character, maybe a G, stylized G. And then the next one, that is an I and then an N. That's how I arrived at begin seven. And then the last character is seven. Is that does that mean there's still seven members? Yeah, it's like, oh, forever seven. We're still seven. We're still together, something like that. So that's how I arrived at begin seven. The other is that I said maybe, just maybe. So that's how I arrived at begin seven. I said maybe, just maybe, it could be Hangul. So, someone actually created a mirror image. Someone suggested creating a mirror image. So that's how it kind of looks like. So it could be a G, maybe LIN, Glyn 7 does not make sense. So, but or Aline or something like that. If you do a mirror image, maybe, yeah. But I said, just like what they did with Wayang Yonwa, maybe it could be Korean characters. So it's like trying to read what those could stand for. So these are some possibilities. So like the G and a K could be that in the first letter on the upper portion. And then it could be a J because that looks like the first character. I'm still in the first character. It can also sound like j or ch. Um, and then R maybe. So so I was thinking like if it stands for B, J, and R, it could be Bangtan, BTS chapter reverse, something like that. It's a long shot, but who knows? It's a long shot, but maybe it's a play on Korean characters that we're just not familiar with. But it could be that. Those are the possibilities. Um, yeah. So that's how I came with BTS chapter reverse 7 or something like that. Like go back to the beginning. I said maybe Chinese characters because the Wayang Yonwa is actually Chinese characters. Doesn't make sense. I was looking at the foundation of Chinese characters doesn't seem to match any of it. So probably not. That I don't think so. It probably Korean characters, but not. I really love how they make us think. Yeah. And then theorist armies are having a renaissance. Yeah, I love it. I said like but honestly, like people are saying like what are you talking? I said I don't care if I'm wrong. It's just that let's start a conversation. Let's just talk. Let's just theorize. Just like think about this. So the YouTube channel was created April of this year, and it's so far it has one video, and then the one video titled Year 22, this is the video that they have. So it's like constellation forming different images related to being an army and related to BTS. So that's obviously the light stick. Why is the title Year 22? Why? Do you want to come? Come on. Come on. Because you're so heavy. I lose the feeling of my legs when you're there. Fearlane, and now I know why you don't sleep. You're too busy having fun. So that could be year 22. I don't know. We are obviously already in 2025, but year 2022 is the last time that they were together. Could be that, right? Or it could be that they're gonna pick up 22 years from the last time the Wayang Yonwa actually ended. That could be that. It's more likely that it's year 2022. So let's see. And then they formed the butterfly. So it's constellation. If you look into the YouTube channel, the link is in the Instagram account, their bio. So it forms, and then this is the Smeraldo flower. So that left the 7 OSTs. Then today was 2 full pages of Hangul. I got through it barely. Why can it be a balloon? This one? This one? It could be a balloon, yeah. Could be anything. It's just that when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's the light stick. And it's also connected to the other figures because butterfly is such an important figure in Wayang Yonwa. Assalamualaikum. Wait, I know the answer. Alaikum salam? Did I pronounce it correctly? What was Jin's age back then? What was Jin's age back then? And the Begin's youth, he was 18? He was 18 or 19? Wasn't that the format that they used in Wayang Yonya for years? Year 22, Jin's age. Could be that. Could be that. Hot air balloon. It could be hot air balloon. Map of the soul balloon. It could be map of the soul balloon. Could be anything. And then the Smeralda flower. Or at least that's how I interpreted it. And that was it. There were three major figures. And then the caption translates to what if we meet again? But if you say it in a more natural way, it says how would it be if we meet again? Or what do you think would happen if we meet again? Like what's up now? Like how are we going to what's gonna happen if we meet again? That's the caption. It's in Hangul, but if you translate it, what if we meet again? Or in a more natural English, how would it be if we meet again? Or what do you think would happen if we meet again? Wa alaikumussalam. Wa is there. Okay, wa alaikumussalam. Okay. Wa alaikumussalam. I'll try to remember. Wa alaikumussalam. Okay, and then so I do think it is related more to the 10th anniversary of Wayang Yonwa than it is to the comeback. They did mention, and even Bang Shiyuk was already talking about celebrating the 10th anniversary of BTS before, even before the return of BTS from their military service. Lotus Bloom, wasn't that font? Thank you so much, Lotus Bloom. Wasn't that font similar to what was used in Seven Moments disc Think from April? I think it was similar, yeah. It looks like a balloon from the album cover. It could be a balloon. It definitely feels like it ties into the Wayang Yonwa storyline, even with the caption. It really sounds like the continuation of the story. Yeah, I think it is more a it's more a celebration of Wayang Yonwa than it is. I think it's more related to that than it is to the actual comeback. So as I've mentioned, they did mention that they were going to celebrate Wayang Yonwa. I was just actually um, watching a clip. Someone sent it to me. This is a clip of the Suchuita interview with JHOPE. And they were talking about how Suga was really the master of Wayang Yonwa. J Hope said like, "Oh, you were in charge of everything," because Suga was talking about like, "I was in charge of the intro," and J Hope was like, "You were in charge of everything," and he said, "I thought I was gonna die," which actually solidifies in my head that this is really his, like he thought about this, but we'll never know. So okay, so I think it is related. So even then, they were talking about celebrating it because this is the turning point of their career. This is what really catapulted them to the mainstream. So there are different possibilities. Maybe the more effortless thing they can release with less time required from the members is to just release unreleased existing songs from that era, or versions of the song, right? If they recorded certain versions that they have not released, maybe they can release that. Maybe that's part of the plan, just to be able to celebrate Wayang Yonwa. And it's also something that we would love because we love unreleased versions of anything. Maybe that's why Suga is busy now. Maybe. Assalamu alaikum, the standard Islamic greeting, which means peace be upon you. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. So unreleased version could be one of them. Um, and then the other thing is probably a live performance. I'm just thinking, are they going to release a live performance? It's very, very possible that they've done a lot in the past that they haven't released. Because we know that one of the things that Big Hit does is constantly film the members. So maybe they are going to release unreleased clips, maybe the a live performance or something, or maybe the recording. That's a possibility. Like for proof, we got song demos. Yeah, song demos or versions, maybe a reinterpretation, maybe some, like you know how Suga released his version of Life Goes on their uh he has his own version of Life Goes On, and he released it in D-Day. Maybe something like that, where they have a separate version that didn't make it and they'll release it now. So that's a possibility as well. A live performance is a possibility. Um, Anxieties kicking in. And then behind the scenes, I'm sure that they have a lot in the recording studio, rehearsal room, meetings. Maybe they're going to release something like that. I would love to get anything. I would love to get the process. I hope that if there's anything they would release, it's actually the story on how the story and the lore was created. Like who suggested this first? Would love to know about that. I know that they mentioned that the idea of actually continuing one album to the next album, continuing the story, actually started in the school trilogy. And I remember it was RM who said that one of the staff members just mentioned, why don't you continue the story of the school trilogy? And they kind of adopted it. But for Wayang Yonwa, my gut feel is that the entire concept is that it was Suga's idea. That's just my my theory. I don't know if that is true. RM said that they were doing something different. I think it's with Bellion. They are going for more music similar to JK and Jimin, the Western market. I think that would be for the comeback. I don't know if that's going to be for Wayang Yonwa, the 10th anniversary. The other part is shorthand, sign signal 7, sign 7. Could be sign 7. I would love to hear the full version of Decalcomania. He deleted it, didn't he? He said he deleted it. Max Martin allegedly as well. Yeah, but I think that's for the comeback, not for. I could be wrong, but I think it's for the comeback. Um, we might get a live stream just to celebrate 7th anniversary. I would love that. The same thing that they did for when they did the live performance. So like just talk for 3 4 hours, do their usual like question and answer where the staff members prepares question, the staff actually prepares a question for them and they'll answer, and then end it with like a live performance of their old songs from this era. Because I would love to see how they're going to reinterpret the songs now that they have matured, they have evolved, their voices have changed. Even if they update some of the rap songs, some of the lyrics, would love to hear that as well. Next is Namjoon threatened with techno. Love you, sister. Love you too. And then of course I think there's going to be a merch for the 10th anniversary. What I really am hoping for is for some sort of a literature to see what the characters are doing now. When I have to turn my notification back up, we don't know. We don't know. So the comeback could be the anniversary, like Wayang Yonwa Part 3. Oh, that is possible. Yeah, the comeback could be, yeah, that's possible. That's possible. You mean the entire concept of the comeback is Wayang Yonwa Part? Yeah, maybe. That's possible. So what I really love is just to know what happened to the characters. What happened to the 7 boys? We know that at the end of the notes they got saved, but the 7 surviving does not mean they are well. So now the journey will have to deal with what happened to them after they got saved. I really am very interested. Fairlane, can you give a brief update on Bang Shiyuk's case? So, wait a minute. I think that's the last. Okay, so for Bang Shiyuk's case, they discovered the major. I'm going to discuss this further in the next live stream, but the biggest update is that they found out that, according number one, they can't get a witness, they can't get anybody of the old investors to testify against Bang Shiuk. So no one has actually come forward from all these investors that made money. No one is coming forward to say, I was cheated by Bang Shiok. They don't have that. Next is that they discovered that it was actually documented that the I think it was it wasn't Eaton, but the other investors, it was KP or something. One of the investors really tried to sell their shares and they were already talking with another investor. So it was going to move forward and then it was canceled. And it was the second attempt. I think it was the second investor that they were discussing with, who was initially interested and then backed out. So what that proves is that Bang Shiyuk really wasn't getting in the way. He wasn't getting involved with anybody trying to sell their shares. It's just that they couldn't find anybody. And so when he said that he had to help these people sell their shares, the case is starting to strengthen because the documents are there. It's documented that these people were really trying to sell and they couldn't find anybody. So he had to make the deal. He had to go in between them, invest his own money, just as so the sellers could really sell their shares. That's the biggest development. So a lot of people, a lot of journalists are saying that, the police captains keep on saying that the case is actually strengthening against him, but all the information that they are getting is that it's actually strengthening in favor of Bang Shiyok. Number one, if you can't get anybody of these investors to testify against him, who's complaining? Second, if the documents are there proving that people were really trying to sell their shares and nobody was buying, then it would be it would be Bang Shiyok not performing his fiduciary duty if he does not help them sell. Um, Easton only did it because, yeah. So the reason Easton decided to buy the shares of these people who were trying to sell, the investors who were trying to sell, was because Bang Shiyuk decided, okay, I'm just going to carry the risk. I'm going to buy it back. If you don't make your money back, I'm going to buy it back plus 7%. So that's the biggest update. But the police still keeps on saying that they are strengthening the case against him. Like it's making progress, that they're actually getting new witnesses and getting evidence that's proving that Bang Shiuk is actually cheated their investors. So let's see. Is it going to trial or not then? Not yet. They haven't forwarded it to prosecution. So it has to go for so after the police investigation, they're going to submit the case to the prosecution, and then the prosecution is going to decide whether it's worth going into trial. This sounds crazy, but I keep on wondering if the police are using some of their interrogation time asking questions about Min Hee-jin. Maybe. Why are they so desperate to find dirt on him? I have theories, but this administration has to catch a big fish. This administration has to find their flagship case. And he is the most glamorous and the most known. If they get him, this president and this administration is going to get the favor of the revolutionaries. Those, remember I discussed with you guys how Koreans are more forgiving if you are a chaebol. Because in their heads, of course, it's obvious that you're going to use your position in your favor because you are a chaebol. But if you're a new rich, they're angrier at you and more critical of you because they feel that it should have been them that found success. So it means that you cheated because in their view, everyone is just as good as you are. A mere fact that you went ahead, that you got ahead of everybody else, it means that you did something illegal and they don't like that. Could have had Cacao Guy. Yeah, but Kakao has a really good he's a treble. He has a really good relationship with many of these people. MHJ lost her morality and formalities. If they need a case, look at Kakao. Um, the police will also get some nice promotions. Don't think MHJ comes with the same promises. Okay, so I only have 7 minutes, but um, maybe I can do just a few of this. RM is actually keeping us updated with on his IG. We know that they are rehearsing. So Korean men are there was just some news, although unconfirmed, no pictures were ever published, that Jin and J-Hope actually had to report to the Korean military. So after they enlist for about 8 years, they still need to report once or twice a year for a checkup just to see if they are fit. They have to, because they will put you inactive. They will make you inactive if you are not fit. And so just a health check to make sure that you are fit, just in case something happens, then they'll call you in. So they said that one by one, this guys are gonna have to come back to Korea to do that. I mean, to the military to do that. But yeah, so he's keeping us updated with all of that. Most streamed K-pop albums daily. Yesterday, Proof became number one again. So we and then Golden, Ruby, Echo, Muse, Rose or Rosie, Do It, Color Outside the Line. Can you believe that? This guys these guys have one album, and they are their most streamed K-pop albums. They've been there for like the next 10 days. For the last 10 days, not next 10 days, but last 10 days. So let's just keep on streaming Proof as we prepare for their comeback. It would be nice to push one more of their songs to 1 billion. So Spotify is actually scheduled to delete some streams. I'll keep you updated on that one. Um yeah, so they are scheduled to delete some of the streams this afternoon, and so tomorrow there's going to be a new one. Um Someone hates him or is very jealous. Actually, that's one of the reasons the speech of Enhypen in Mama 2025 was very controversial, because they were the first to sort of publicly express, well, not the first. The first one was Le Seraphim when they thanked Bang Shiyuk as a producer for their songs. But what made Enhypen's acceptance speech controversial was the fact that they actually stated, thank you for treating us like artists, like people, and not products. And as you know, that's one of the biggest controversies in that Min Hee Jin and Hani and the rest of New Jeans actually put forward, because they kept on saying that Hybe treats them like products and not as people. And then here is Enhypen saying, thank you for treating us like human beings and artists, not products. So that created a stir in the Korean community. But if you could watch their speech, that would be great. I heard that Naver is now the third largest investor in Hybe, and people are worried. They acquired a company that used to be the third largest, and they said that the second largest investor is Bang Shiyuk's cousin. Sorry, but SK is a messed up country. Why not go after MHJ? Um, because she's a woman, that's one. She is not a chebol. She's not rich. If they go after her, they're going to look like they are misogynist. They are going to be called misogynist for sure, sexist, anti-feminist, and most importantly, anti-poor, because she has positioned herself as poor. Remember, she said that I am David and they are the Goliath. So very, very clear branding. She knows how the Korean public how she wants the Korean public to look at her. So it's not going to benefit them. They're just going to get criticized. But if they go after Bang Shiyuk, they are going to be the champions of the poor. That's the reason. What about the 1.6 million unsold New Jeans album that were put in a warehouse with MHJ? Actually, it's one of the things that people kept on talking about during the trial by Lorena, because people felt like, you keep on saying you don't know about this contract, you don't know about this business. I don't remember. I trusted somebody else to do it. I gave them 100% authority. I did this, I did that. I did not know about this. I don't remember. I did not know about this. And people keep on saying, and so why do you want to be CEO? So, um, why would you, if you don't remember anything, if you don't like looking into contracts, if you would just entrust your IP to somebody 100% without any kind of question, why do you think you're the right CEO? That's one of the major things a CEO should do. So, which that they have a point, right? Why do you think you're the right CEO if you can't even keep track of your contracts? I don't know. ADP Tarzan must be dying Cortez. I don't know if you. Oh, by the way, so JK is going to be the is going to be on Rolling Stone, but I think it's only going to be available in Korea and the UK and Japan. I don't think it's going to be available in the US. But if it is, I'm going to try and get a copy. Maybe it's going to be available in Amazon. But please look at that. Jungkook to cover Rolling Stone UK in global exclusive pre-orders. Pre-order yours now. So if you are in Europe, maybe you can get a copy of that. So that's an article that they wrote about him. Any updates on the three status with Adore? So they already are done with separate meetings. They met with the three separately. Also, they took down the New Jeans Instagram account. So that's down. Nobody knows who is actually behind it. Everyone thinks it's Minhee Jin, but that was taken down, their Instagram account. And so are the PR accounts of NJZ. She has selective memory loss. Some people are just acting like a CEO. Jungkook loving it. MHJ's conduct in the courtroom constitute a significant failure of credibility. That's, I mean, for a sane person, that's what I think they're going to see. I mean, but also, someone actually mentioned this in Twitter. Maybe the strategy is to just for her to just avoid criminal liability. Maybe she knows she's not going to win the the put option, but she's just trying to avoid criminal liability. And for you to be an actual criminal, there has to be intent. And I think for at least a lot of people think that what she's trying to do is just avoid intent. That's why it's better for her to say, I don't know and I don't understand, because if she says, I actually did not read the contract, it's going to prove that she's ignorant and she's not a good CEO. It's not going to prove that she premeditated all of this. Could be that. Very, very plausible that now she doesn't want to be criminally charged. They took down their independent IG accounts and the parents' so-called PR account. They took down the actual New Jeans Instagram, or you mean the ones they created? The ones that they created is the one that they took down. Yeah, just the ones and the PR account of that account. So, but they feel that this is actually all Minheejin, that she's the one controlling those accounts. So, but for now, no progress have been made. The last news about Hani is that she was sick. So let's see what's going to happen. Okay. Um. So it's the I'm incompetent, nor criminal defense. Yeah. Yeah. Not I'm incompetent, not criminal. Correct. That's a lot of people on Twitter. Well, there was this one account who sort of proposed that maybe she's just trying to be safe, to not be charged criminally, but she probably knows that she's not going to win the put option case. She'd be tough to out to dinner with. I bet they took the account down because they could be fined for individual activities since the court sided with Adore. Yeah. Okay, so we can continue for the rest of the topics next on Wednesday. Hani has penguin fever. So thank you very much for today. I hope that I was able to like share a little bit about Korean hip hop, the significance of other Korean hip hop rappers, Yoon MIRAE, the significance of Neuron, or the whole album of J-Hope as well, and where BTS is actually positioned in this Korean hip hop legacy, like where they are, if they really contributed something, or are we just really being fans? But I think at the end of the day, for as long as, at least we know where they came from, the people that sort of restructured all of these things to make what they are doing now possible, at least we know them now, right? So it's not blind admiration. At least we know a little bit more. Are you sure release date December 3? So I might do a live reaction, but I can't do it on YouTube because YouTube is going to take it down. So I don't know if Twitch will allow it, maybe Instagram. I don't know if Twitter will allow it. If not, I'll find a way, but I might do a live reaction. Let's see if I can actually do that. So December 3, let's all celebrate together and be happy. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Bye bye. Oh, thank you. See, bye bye. Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye, everyone.